Hi, I'm Amy. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a great day. Today I want to go through all of the books that I read in September or that I finished at the beginning of October that were on my September TBR. First off, we have Unravel Me by Tahereh Mafi. In this we follow Juliet, who has the power to kill with a touch, with a few exceptions. This is the second in the Shatter Me series, so I'm not going to go into any details of about what the plot is in this book. We do have at least a couple of major events, definitely some reveals that I either did or didn't see coming, and we get to know more about Juliet's powers and about many of the characters that are around her. I do really enjoy Kenji. He's one of my favorite characters so far in the series. It's a little bit slow moving, and I'm not always a huge fan of rebel plot lines, but I did enjoy this, and it did make me want to continue the series. So that is Unravel Me by Tahereh Mafi. Next up is a book that fulfilled my prompt for books written before the 1900s. This is the best-known works of Emile Zola. I only read the first of the books that are included in this collection. It was the longest. It's most of the book, actually, and it is called Nana. We follow quite the cast of characters. I wouldn't really say there's a main character in the book, but Nana is definitely the central character. So we start out with a group of gentlemen that have met at a theater, and one of them has never seen Nana before, and everybody's raving about her. Other than the fact that, yes, she's an actress, yes, she's playing one of the main characters in the play, but she's not the best actor, she's not the best singer, she's not the best dancer, but she's very charismatic and also very beautiful. She is also a courtesan, so many of these men will essentially pay for her attentions, either in gifts or in money. But we just kind of follow her life, starting with that first introduction in the theater. There is a cast of men that just kind of come in and out of her life, and she just really just takes advantage of them, almost as though she doesn't really realize what she's doing. She brings many of them to complete ruin. There is a moment towards the end of the book where it seems like she's self-aware and realizes that she has basically ruined all of these men that have come in and out of her lives and everyone that is associated with them. But then she's kind of like, well, it was all their decision. I didn't make them follow me. I didn't make them come see me. I didn't make them give me gifts, so it's not my fault. We have one man that is a banker. We also have a younger man who is just completely stricken with her. He is completely obsessed, and she really does him dirty. She leads him along, makes him feel like she has dreams of them getting married and having a family in the future, but she never has any intention of doing that whatsoever. And then when his mother decides that she wants his brother to come and get him and take him away from this situation, she ends up just reeling in his brother as well. And unfortunately, there is a tragic ending to some of the relationships that she has with these men. It's frustrating. It's kind of heartbreaking. There is some commentary. I noticed, like, one of the main characters, his wife is also having an affair, and Nana breaks the news to him, and he's completely devastated and just, he wants to go and confront her. He wants to kill her and her lover. He wants to catch them in the act, and he's just wandering around the city in tears because, oh my God, his wife is having an affair while he's with a courtesan. He found out about it from his lover that he's having an affair with. But oh my God, his wife is having an affair. It's it's very, I guess, telling. But I did listen to a lot of this on audiobook, and I'm glad I did because it's a very French book. There's a lot of French names. A lot of the places are French names, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to pronounce them correctly, and it was nice to hear them the way they were intended to be heard. I know there's a lot of phrasing and things that they mention in the book that I have no idea what the background is for it. So if I were writing a paper on this book, I probably would have looked deeper into some of that content. The descriptions are beautiful in a lot of cases, aside from one at the very end that is extremely grotesque. I was not expecting that whatsoever. Hopefully I was able to describe this without giving too much away in case you're interested in picking this up, but I'm glad I read it. It wouldn't be one of my favorite books, but it's definitely one that made me think, and it was kind of entertaining. Definitely do not approve of Nana. She was definitely an unlikable character all in all, but she was charismatic, and she definitely had confidence in herself and in her looks for sure, and even in her acting ability, even though she was very upset when they practically laughed her off the stage for one of the parts that she played. She is not an actress throughout the entire book, but it does come in and out of her life. There is also an abusive relationship with one of her fellow actors. There is animal death at one point, which was unsettling and definitely not my favorite part of the book. It's not graphic. They don't go into any of the details really, but it's really sad. So there is that, but that is Nana by Emile Zola. Okay, I had to blow out the candles because Mikasa decided to come join. Yeah, kitty. Yeah. And I don't want her to catch her tail on fire. That would be very unfortunate. All around. So yeah. I forgot to say what I would have rated Nana. I'd say probably a 3. I didn't hate it. It was interesting, and I think it was pretty well written. But it's not a new favorite or anything. But yeah, on to the next one, now that I've had kitty distraction. Next is Volume 0, Issue None of the Book of the Month short story collection that they have that's exclusive to them. In this one, we had several different stories. I'll just kind of go through all of those. There was The Hot Girl, which is kind of a rich party girl, can do no wrong. The main character used to be friends with her, and after a certain incident where she had no empathy towards the fact that she could have caused her former boyfriend's death, wants nothing to do with her. And then there's The Next Husband Game, which involves a husband and wife who constantly tell each other, my next husband won't do this, my next wife won't do this, or they will do this. And it kind of kitty. Okay, well, that happened. I don't know what she knocked down, but she knocked something down. I guess I'll deal with that here in a little bit. But yeah, it was alright. And then the next one is The Reclamation, which is kind of a culty one. You've got a woman whose husband bought her a ticket to this retreat that was run by a influencer that's really popular, that gives a lot of life and business advice, and it's very interesting, very culty. Not my favorite, for sure. And then there's Lemon Boy, which is kind of... So our main character meets this boy at a party that she thinks is really cute, and she's actually at the party with one of her coworkers that thinks it's a date, but she ends up just kind of following this other boy around because he intrigues her and she's interested in him instead. And he basically tells her a sob story about his last girlfriend that he says disappeared and saw holes everywhere. So that one's kind of weird, but she was a popular musician in a band, I guess. Or maybe he's the one that's in the band. But either way, it's definitely a weird little story. Mikasa is, once again, she likes to open my cupboard doors. So she'll just put her paw in the door and then let it slam closed again. So that's fun. Mikasa stopped. And then we have Greensleeves, which our main character's boyfriend, fiance, can't see green, and anytime anyone tries to convince him that it even exists, he doesn't believe them. So that's an interesting scenario. And then we have Heat, which was probably my least favorite of them, about this young man who's just gotten out of college and he's overseas with some of his friends, and he meets up with some actually, I don't think maybe he doesn't know any of them, but a group of strangers just kind of meets out of random, maybe their hotel lobby or at a cafe, and they tell their cabbie to take them where they can meet some girls, and he takes them to a brothel. So there was that one. And then the last one is A Spell for Disappearing, and this one's probably the one that so our main character meets this man who, I don't remember, I think he she is just non-stop tonight. She meets a man and they basically fall in love almost at first sight and really connect, and they are on the road to being engaged. And then she's approached by this woman who tells her that he is lying to her about everything, that he's not where he says he's from, he doesn't have the background that he says he does, he doesn't have the job he says he does, that he just will single out women and basically swindle them out of all of their money. And so she's trying to talk her into finding a way to get away from him, essentially. They were all interesting reads. I wouldn't say any of them are a favorite. I don't know that I mean, I don't even know how you would get a hold of a copy unless you're part of the book of the month, or maybe find one secondhand. But I guess if any of those interest you, you could try and find a copy, but I don't even know if I'll keep this one, honestly, because it's not really my cup of tea. But that is the short story collection, Volume 0, Issue None. And now, Mikasa, hi. Why are you being such a pill? Huh? You want to come sit in my lap? You can be a good girl? Is it because I closed the door? Because I want to keep the heat in? Anyway, I'm going to try and talk about the next book. Okay, and the next one we have is probably my favorite of the month, which was The September House by Carissa Orlando. And in this one, we have a couple that moves into basically their dream house. They've lived in apartments all their lives. They've kind of skipped around, even with when they lived with their parents, they always moved from place to place, and they never really had a place to call home. So when they find this house that's within their price range, they jump on it. And our main character's name is Margaret, and her husband's name is Hal, and she is just ecstatic about having a house of her own. And she, to the point that when things start going wrong in the house, she just kind of starts to accept them, and finds a way to work around them. So she has a multitude of ghosts that are haunting the place. Not everybody can see them, but she and her husband can. And he can't handle it anymore. Every September, they have walls that bleed and extra ghosts that show up, and one of the ghosts that is actually pretty helpful starts doing weird things, like she'll put plates in the stove or under the sink. She'll put knives and spoons in the bathroom, and just she'll create disarray all over. Sorry, the cat is distracting. But her husband decides that he's had enough, so he leaves. Her daughter has already grown and moved out and gone to college, and she's got a new career that she's really successful at. She actually has never been to the house, and she calls pretty regularly, and her mother has just been telling her, oh, your dad's busy or he's away. And she finally admits that he left a month ago, and she hasn't tried to contact him. He hasn't contacted her. Her daughter can't get a hold of him, so she tells her mom that she's gonna come down there and figure out what the heck is going on. And as much as her mother tries to dissuade her of this, the daughter's name is Catherine, she can't be dissuaded. So Catherine comes to September House, and of course she can't see any of the strange things that are going on in the house. But as the story goes along, naturally it's September when her daughter comes. She's like, can you just wait until October? Can you please just wait to come until October? But she has none of it. So she's trying to keep Catherine from figuring out that the house is haunted, because she's pretty sure that if her daughter finds out what's going on in the house, that she'll make her move, that she won't let her stay there by herself. So they're trying to figure out what happened to the husband, of course the daughter more so than Margaret, and Margaret is trying to keep her daughter from figuring out that the house is haunted while everything is getting worse and worse throughout the month, even though she can't see any of what's going on. I really enjoyed it. It was good. I gave this one a 4-star, and I would recommend if you like haunted houses. Next we have A Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey Impicciche. This one is a kind of retelling of The Little Mermaid, but with sirens. I was a little skeptical at first, only because it felt like it was going to be a more straightforward retelling, even though I was really looking forward to reading it, and I really like watching Kelsey's content on YouTube. She plays The Sims, but it turned out to be very unique, a very fun read. I did not realize that it was going to be a series, because we kind of end off on a little bit of a cliffhanger-ish towards the... yeah, I'd say it's a cliffhanger. So I don't want to give too much away other than what's basically in the synopsis. So we have Celeste, who is a siren. She is a princess, and she has been training to basically be a guard. But she spots a ship when she's up at the surface, when she's not supposed to be, and of course there's she gets intrigued by one of the humans that's on board. His name is Raiden, and when the sirens attack the ship, she takes it upon herself to save him and basically his best friend and his dog. But that action is punishable by death in her society. But her parents give her an alternative. Her mother gives her an alternative. She can be reaccepted and brought back in and not be put to death if she will assassinate the prince. So she goes to the sea witch, who gives her legs so that she can go on land to try and find the prince and murder him. And she ends up joining his crew on another ship, and adventure ensues. I enjoyed the other characters that are in this book, and the relationship that they gradually start to build, and I generally enjoyed it. I did like the kind of twist at the end, and I liked how unique it was, and I would give this one probably a 4, and I did enjoy my time, so I do recommend. Okay. The next book I want to talk about is To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly X. Shang. This one is a fantasy. We follow Yang Ruying. She has kind of like, actually come to think of it, she's kind of like Juliet, because she can kill people with a touch. But in this case, we are in the kingdom of, the empire of Erlang, and her people have become subjugated by these people that basically came through a portal in the sky and just took over their kingdom. At first they came in peace, but they've just kind of gradually started, well, I wouldn't even say gradually. They have a tentative peace with them, but they definitely rule with an iron fist, and her people are suffering from it. they have introduced a drug that's basically opium. They don't call it opium in the book, but it's a very similar name, and many people are addicted to it and have died from it, especially if they go off of it, then they can die from withdrawal. But there are, I think, 3 or 4 princes that are under the king, and they kind of take over the governance of her kingdom, or her empire. And one of those princes, his name is Antony, and she encounters him on the street. It kind of reminded me of how the characters in Quicksilver met. As well, as far as her stealing something and it ends up bringing danger to her door, to her family, and she has to find a way to keep her family safe. So she agrees to become the prince's assassin, even though she had basically vowed never to kill anyone with her power, not to use her power. Her grandmother made her promise not to use it, but to keep her grandmother and her sister alive. She agrees to be his assassin, and throughout the story he's almost convinced her that what she's doing is to protect her people also, that if she essentially helps him become the next king, then he will make everything better for her people. And it's an interesting read. It's not one of my favorites. Again, it has a rebel group that's involved. Her sister is one of those people that is addicted to opium, and she only became addicted because she was on a mission for this rebel group, if I remember right. I could be wrong about that. But eventually she does start to grow an affection for the prince, and he seems to do the same with her. It was an interesting read, and I think I may continue in the series. It might be a while yet before I get around to that, but yeah, I would say either a 3.5, probably a 3.5, because I didn't like it as much as the September House. I don't think I liked it as much as Voice of the Ocean, but I'd say it's probably along the same lines as Unravel for me. So yeah, I'd probably give it a 3.5. So that is To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. Lastly, I got a prompt for a comic. So it's a little unconventional, I know, because I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk about comics on BookTube. But I decided to go with The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest. I do have most of them, but I'm missing the 1st and 2nd, the 10th, and the 12th of these. I got these back when they were originally published, and I don't think I've ever gone through and just read them all. I had read most of them after I got them. I think I did get a few of them afterwards because I didn't always get a chance to get them when they came out. So I got some of them online, possibly on eBay, and I would like to get the 4 that I'm missing at some point. They're okay. I wouldn't say they're the best comics that are out there, but if you're like me and you used to watch The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest on Cartoon Network when it was airing in the United States, then it's nostalgic. They're almost like abridged versions of some of the episodes. though these stories are separate from the series. I don't remember any of these being in any of the actual cartoon series that aired. So these are unique stories, but just a bunch of different adventures that they go on, different villains that they meet, and it was an enjoyable read. I enjoyed going down kind of memory lane and going back into the world of the quests. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. And that was The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest. I believe they have multiple different authors. The first one is Kate Worley is the author, and Sean McLaughlin, and also Tom and Mary Beerbaum. And yeah, that's all of the different authors for those. Yeah, so that was all that I read in September and the beginning of October to finish off my September TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and Mikasa and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!